Hello, welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia. I'm your host, Jacob Russ. I'm joined by my co-host again for the week, Mr. Traven Jonas. We are back and we're playing with Power. Traven, welcome back for a new record, 2 weeks in a row for you, my friend. How are you doing, buddy? Thank you so much again for coming back on to talk some more Mega Man. What's going on? What's new with you?
I'm doing good. Always happy to talk about Mega Man. Not much happened, different from last week or anything. Still on Endless Ocean, still playing that game. So, how are you doing?
Well, it's endless. I mean, it's never going to stop, right? So,
yep.
I'm doing pretty well. It's just the youngest and I today hanging out. All the other kids are occupied with other things, and my wife works until about 4:30, and really that's about it. And then we'll figure out what we'll do this afternoon. But I'm doing good overall. It's a good week for the most part. Some ups and downs, like always, but yeah, I'm doing all right. Doing all right. But let's waste no time and get into our favorite segment of every episode, which is what have we been radical rexing about. Okay, so obviously you've been playing Endless Ocean because it's endless, but is there anything that's got you excited? Any news that you've heard this week that maybe you're like, oh, okay, you heard some things and that's just kind of on your mind and you've thought about it a little bit?
I don't think there's any notable video game news recently. A while back, I told you that the release date for Gundam Breaker 4 was released. I forget what I told you. It's like sometime in the fall.
I thought it was like August or something like that.
Yes, it was sometime like that. I don't remember. But they had like open betas and stuff. Well, I don't think it was open. I think it was a closed beta. But so I've been looking into stuff about that. And it looks like, unlike New Gundam Breaker, this one's going to be a pretty good game in the series. So getting excited for that one. Getting excited to play that one. Lots of new customization options they're adding. And it looks pretty good, so I'm getting excited for that one.
Well, I'm excited for it too. I mean, I've never played a Gundam game, and I know it's stuff you're into, and I want to buy a game that I know you really love, and we can try to play online together and talk about it. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, it's fun if you like to customize robots. You can customize play style. If you're a fan of the Gundam series, they have hundreds of mechs to pick from. And then, of course, you could just pick and choose parts from there. So, if you wanted to make a Banjo-Kazooie mech, you can run around with a Banjo-Kazooie mech. I remember in the last game, they actually had a mode where you can, fight other people's creations. There's a lot of Mega Man robots that people made from there, like Megaman and Zero.
Nice.
Some robot masters, like I remember Top Man and Cut Man and characters like that. So,
that's cool. That's real cool. Awesome. Anything else?
Not really. At least not on the Nintendo front.
Okay. Well, for myself, I am still excited for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. That's about to get here. I think I don't know if I'm excited. I've been just listening to a lot of talk and speculation about just the gaming industry and everything that Xbox done. So I've thought about that stuff a lot and the state of gaming and even Sony PlayStation with what they've been doing. It's kind of weird, and it feels nice that Nintendo's the only one that at the moment, knock on some wood, that we don't have to worry about or question their decisions, and they seem to be in a good tight spot. So I am excited about that. I'm really curious. I'm thinking man, what will they show in this June Direct? I don't expect them to. This next June Direct is going to be interesting because I don't expect Nintendo to. I'm not expecting massive bombs oh my gosh, this game, that game. I'm expecting games that are not going to break the earth, but I think that they're going to be exciting to have around. Oh, awesome. For example, I think we're going to get a lot of remasters or remakes. I think we're going to get that Prime 2. Prime 2 will drop later in July, and we already know about that Nintendo World Championships game that's coming out, which I won't lie, at first I was like, I don't really want this. But watching people play it, the trailer they put out, I'm like, because we all hang out and game from time to time, like that is something that would be fun to do outside of always playing Smash Brothers because you always win. It'd be fun to have something different. Maybe we can try to, take the crown on that game. But I'm just interested. I'm curious to see what they could do. I mean, they could do a lot of things that make me satisfied. And I'm obviously like I'm chomping at the bit to see the Switch 2 and I'm excited for it, but like the Switch is so different because it's like the first Nintendo system I've ever, at least that I can recall, where like I'm okay even if the Switch 2 doesn't come out for another year or so. Like, like at the end of the 64 life, we're just kind of like, all right, we're getting fewer and fewer games, and the games that we do get are kind of lackluster. Maybe one more good one, but you're other than that, you're not really touching your system. Same thing happened with the GameCube to the Wii to the Wii U, definitely the Wii U. All of the systems beforehand, and the Switch just still pumps out quality games at a regular cadence, and it's like I feel no. I We talked about this a couple of weeks ago over the phone. I feel no need to where I'm just like, oh, I'm done with the Switch. Like I feel great when I put a game in and I still play it. I think it's fun, and there's so many games on it. I mean, in reality, we always talk about wanting new stuff. But at the same time, especially on this paternity leave, I've just been able to play backlog games. I'm just finally catching up. So I really don't feel that sense of urgency of like, I need a new system. Obviously, I will be there day one, pre-ordered for a Switch 2. I will be. I just am. That's who I am with Nintendo. But, I still love my Switch, and I'm not like, oh, this thing is just so old and outdated. I'm not. I don't feel that way. So it's interesting. And I guess that's a good thing that I feel that way about the Switch, right?
Yeah.
Um, Other things I'm radical rexing about. I've been on a kick. Listen to these Australian guys on YouTube, and they cover a lot of movies. It's called like Mr. Sunday Movies or whatever. It's got like
Okay.
a goat guy as their logo, and they do these episodes called Caravan of Garbage, and they talk about pretty much like the production of movies, what went into it, how much it made, the reception, the behind the scenes stuff, and it's just they're really funny. And because the new Planet of the Apes movie came out this like past weekend or so, they covered it and they've been leading up to it, talking about the more recent Planet of the Apes movie. So I decided, I'm like, that's a movie series I never actually watched. So I've actually been going back on Hulu and marathoning the original Planet of the Apes from 1968 to 1970, 71, and so on.
Hmm.
And the story is very interesting, and I'm enjoying it. Obviously, I love monkeys, being a big Donkey Kong Country fan. So
Yeah.
I'm really surprised I never actually went back and watched this because I want to rewatch the earlier one. So it's like the newer ones are more prequels. If you don't know,
Yeah.
they show the evolution of how humanity fell and primates took over the world. Whereas in the originals, it's kind of the opposite. They show astronauts fall some time loop thing in space and they come back to Earth and they're actually teleported to the 2000 years into the future where humans have de-evolved and are more like apes and monkeys um and I I don't know why going into the detail. I'm sure many fans have already listened or watched it, but if you haven't, and apes rule the world, and it it seems like the original ones you're rooting for humanity, and then and the newer ones you're rooting for the monkeys because you see the mistreatment of monkeys and primates and stuff, and
Mhm.
it's just this power struggle. And I just watched the third one, which was very interesting because um, I don't want to spoil it. This 30, 40-year-old movie here, so I won't go into the details, but I'm enjoying it, put it that way. I am, and I'm probably going to try to catch up so I can see the new one that just came out in theaters eventually. So, but with that said, that's about it. Oh, wait, I got to talk about one thing.
Okay.
I got to talk about Animal Well, the game Animal Well. I think I mentioned it last week.
Yep.
Game is really fun. It's really addicting. I love it. I think it is super fun. If you love Metroid, if you love a simplistic look. It looks beautiful, and it's just fun and it's clever. I have had some stumping points from this. Gosh, man, I'm stuck again. I finally figured something out, and then I got 10 more questions. I'm like, what the heck do I do here? Overall, I've been able to trudge my way through it, and it's turning out really good. So I have been enjoying it. If you haven't picked up Animal Well, go get that. Oh, and on the online Switch Online this week, they dropped three Game Boy games randomly, which was a nostalgic trip because I remember all three of those games, especially Mario Land. And I finally beat Mario Land. Thank you, Save States, and I beat it in like less than an hour. So
Yeah.
um, it's quite interesting how easy that game felt as an adult versus when I was a kid because I never did beat it. I got all the way to the final boss. I do know that. I could not ever beat him. I never could beat him. At least I don't think I could. I got really close, but maybe I did, and I just can't remember because I'm getting too old. But I beat the game in like less than an hour, and it was just fun to revisit that. And the music in that game is great. The controls are definitely a bit, wonky per se. Like Mario falls when he comes off of a ledge, he like falls to the ground like super fast. So it's like figuring out the timing and controls of that was a little tricky, but overall loved it. Wacky, crazy Mario. And I personally have been an advocate. I wish Nintendo would just devote a portion of their teams to like what they did with Zelda Link's Awakening. I really wish that they would just devote a portion of their teams to like, hey, we're going to recreate and reimagine our these Game Boy games for a modern audience. And I think it would be so fun to go back and make a Mario Land game or Mario Land 2 and like revisit them with new unique graphics.
Mhm.
Those are those fun little treat games that like I don't expect the Link's Awakening to be remade and look like little toy figures like amiibos and stuff. And that was really fun and cool. And I would love for Nintendo I think those Game Boy games are I mean, I don't know. I'm no video game creator, so I have no idea. But I would imagine that they're cheaper to make and simpler to make and could be fun. So here's to hoping for Switch 2 we get more like regular like Game Boy game remakes and some unique art style. So,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
all right. Well, with that said, I will shut up and we are here to talk this whole month of the episodes that we put out this month are devoted to the character Megaman. Megaman, he's been on Nintendo. He's been on many systems, obviously. So I think it's even though he's not a Nintendo Direct character, he's in Smash Brothers. I think is definitely he's a legendary video game character, and he's worthy of devoting a month of episodes to him. So Traven, our Mega Man expert, is back to talk some more Mega Man, and this week we're going to focus on the series of Mega Man Legends. All right, Mega Man Legends. This was coming out, debuting in 1997 on the Sony PlayStation. Why are we talking about a PlayStation game, Traven, on a Nintendo nostalgia podcast? This seems a bit dirty. Like we're cheating on Nintendo here. That's not good. Um, but
Well,
go
it
ahead.
didn't just come out on the PlayStation. They had a version on the 64 called Mega Man 64. That was like
Which
a port. That was a port of Mega Man Legends.
Of course, Nintendo always has to be different. They always have to change the name to confuse audiences. Mega Man 64, because I won't lie. As a kid, I again just like last week, I don't know much about Mega Man at all, really. But I remember playing him one Mega Man at the original Nintendo back when I was a kid when my dad was like farming a field and the people who owned it invited me in to play the Nintendo so I didn't have to be out in the heat with him. So that was nice. And that was just I don't remember which one that was old school Mega Man. Then all my next Mega Man memories are with you because I we played Mega Man X a lot, and Mega Man X was definitely hard and challenging and something I was not very good at. But I have, I had the collection for the Switch, and I played that one a lot, and some of the other Mega Man X games. But then my third experience with Mega Man was this. I had a friend who had a PlayStation, and I went to his house and watched him play it. I had no idea how to play a PlayStation. It was confusing to me. I'm used to, B&A and all the Nintendo setups. So I just kind of watched him do it. I think I messed around, but I watched him mostly. And he's young too. It's 1997. We're 6, 7 years old. We're literally the age of my daughters here. So, didn't know what we were doing. I remember we were like, we just kind of got lost. So we'd be outside that in the intro. There's like a giant building, and we would roam around outside and get lost inside. And I think eventually we made our way through, but that's pretty much all my experience with this game. Can you just take us down a trip of like what's it like for, I don't know, the story, where this series is going, and what you recall of it?
So Mega Man Legends is obviously different than the side scroller Mega Man's in that it's a 3D experience. You aim your buster. It's a third person view. You can aim your buster, or it automatically locks onto enemies sometimes. And then, in addition to having your main buster, there's also a bunch of side weapons you can upgrade and use as well. There's some of them like there's a drill that you can use for close range, or a sword, and then there's like a super laser you can get eventually at the end of Mega Man Legends 1. So, gameplay wise, it's quite a bit different from all of the main series games. Story wise, it's also, well, first of all, it's a bit more, I don't know if I'd say, well, it's definitely more story than Mega Man 1. Uh, so, on the timeline, it's kind of maybe a little bit disputed. Well, it's usually set at the end of all the Mega Man games. It's where it's considered to be located at. So after Mega Man X, Zero, and even ZX, to the point where Inti Creates, who made the ZX series, put some sort of references in the game and the secret ending to sort of say that the ZX series happens right before Mega Man Legends. So
So
Mega Man, what? Oh,
sorry. So this is canon with all of the Mega Man games.
so yeah, I guess I should probably explain the Mega Man timeline. So it's a little fuzzy because I don't know if Capcom's officially released anything. But the Mega Man timeline goes Mega Man, the original Mega Man series is first. Then it goes to the Mega Man X series with Dr. Light creating X, who is separate from Mega Man. And then Wily creates Zero, who is X's friend in the X franchise. And then after Mega Man X, we go to Mega Man Zero, which takes place after Zero has put himself in hibernation in the X series. And X creates this sort of utopian society for humans and Reploids to live together. And that kind of goes sour. Then we have the ZX series that happens after the Zero series, in which X and Zero are biometals, which are almost these kind of like robot spirit type things that can merge with humans. And at that point, one of the notable changes in humanity is that they've kind of become part machine, part human due to Reploid equality laws. And then at the end of that, we get into Mega Man Legends, in which we're greeted with an opening that it's a world covered with an endless sea, and all the humans now are called carbons, and they kind of are that same biomechanical type individual, and that they appear to be humans, but they can replace their body parts with like robot parts, like guns and stuff like that, which kind of is a carryover to what they did in ZX with their sort of human Reploid equality laws. So then we have Mega Man, and he isn't a human or a Reploid or a carbon. He is a Mega Man from basically this past society. And that's a whole, I could go on forever about the lore of this game. But so in short, Mega Man works as a digger, which is kind of like a treasure hunter. And what his job is to do is to go into the past society ruins, and he sort of explores these ruins looking for treasures, parts. these crystals that they use to fuel society. And as the story goes along, as he's exploring these ruins more and more, there's kind of this ancient mystery that sort of starts to unravel as they find out about the past society. And there's basically this program that every so often cleanses the island they live on of basically biological life, which in this case is the carbons or the human machine people that live on the island. So it's definitely an interesting story. And then in Mega Man Legends 2, they sort of expand on that sort of backstory with the ancient ruins and stuff like that. I won't go too much into spoilers for anyone who wants to play the series. And then there was supposed to be a Mega Man Legends 3, since Mega Man Legends 2 kind of ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, but that was canceled. So we'll have to talk about that a bit more. So about the game is kind of laid out. It's I'm not sure if I wouldn't say it was open world, but it's got kind of this open environment. You've got a hub town in the center, and then you've got these sort of dungeons or temples where you go through, and that's where the enemies are. They're the Reaver bots. They're the sort of robots from the previous civilization I talked about earlier. And you destroy them, and you'll get like parts and currency stuff like that you can use. And then as you're going through these temples, and as the story progresses, you have to fight bosses, and it eventually ends with you having to fight the final boss. I won't spoil why you have to go through the end there, but so yeah, it kind of did remind me a little bit about like how in the Zelda you'd have to go through dungeons and stuff, but there's also this sort of overall underground system that you can travel to different parts of the overworld. So it's all kind of connected. I wouldn't say it's necessarily open world, but it's definitely got that big world that you can travel along.
So is this might be a dumb question, but is like Dr. Wily, he's like he's the Bowser of Mega Man, right?
Sort of. His actions his actions directly influence the first game. He's the main antagonist of the first game. In the second game, he isn't the main antagonist. It's Sigma, but due to his actions in the first game, creating the Zero virus, and how Sigma gets infected with that virus, he is more or less responsible for the actions of all the bad stuff that happens in this the X series. And Mega Man Zero, it's not really him. He's not really a factor anymore. There's in the first couple of games, it's Copy X, and then it goes into a new scientist called Dr. Vile or Dr. Wheel or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's pronounced Dr. Vile, but it's not spelled like that. And he kind of influences ZX as well, because the thing with him is he's trying to use Zero's original body to sort of take over the world. By the time Mega Man Legends comes around, there are references to Dr. Wily and all the old stuff, but he has no influence over the series at this point. The main antagonist is basically this ancient civilization and how they kind of tried to control the world and make a perfect society, but it was all stagnant and had really no respect for the life that was living on the planet, because they would do these cleansing processes every so often to kill everyone, and that's not exactly ethical.
Right. Isn't this like hundreds to thousands of years in the future from the original games? Like, don't they all take like far apart from each other, or is it relatively close?
No, Legends is like thousands of years after ZX.
What?
ZX is maybe hundreds of years. Well, no, ZX is like I'd say like 50 years after Zero, maybe even less than that, like 30 years. And Zero is like I think hundreds of years after X, and then X to Mega Man I think is also like hundreds of years, maybe not hundreds of years there.
This is this is very Zelda-like, like the events of one game, like everything that happened is ruins compared to, their ancient ruins and times to the next.
Kind of. I mean, Yeah, it's that main. It's got the main storyline. They kind of influence each other. Legends is so far removed from the past game that you don't really see as much of that influence. But like Zelda, there's alternate timelines, but they have no connection to the main timeline. Like Battle Network and Star Force are their own timeline,
It's,
completely separate from the
yeah,
main.
totally different games, not at all connected, which is crazy. But okay. So, I mean, obviously, there's more than one game in this series, and you even led to the fact that as we did our research, like one of the games got canceled, which we'll get to in a little bit. But there's the second game, like, so what was the reception of these games, Traven? Were these games you had like right away when they came out too, and you played them all?
These were not games I had right away because on PlayStation I was mostly playing the Mega Man X series, which was kind of one of my favorites. I did get it later on in time. One of the good things PlayStation does that maybe Nintendo isn't the best at is they do release a lot of their classic games under their PlayStation Classic system. So I was able to get it on the PlayStation Vita of all consoles. So it was kind of portable when I played it. Reception for these games is outstanding. This series is a lot of Mega Man's fans' favorite games, like hands down. Even the creator of the series said, this is my favorite Mega Man series line that I worked on. So there's a lot of people liked it for the story, the gameplay, uh, all the mechanics added into it. There's a lot of even small mechanics, like weirdly enough, it's got a morality system in the game where your armor will turn lighter or darker. And the Mega Man Battle Network has something like this, but it's one of those things that in Mega Man Legends you won't necessarily know about it unless if you kind of notice it or do certain things. And there's a lot of like it's easy to just do on the good path, but you can also do bad things on purpose or accident. Like in the first game, there's a mission where you have to like protect this bank and the money and like the suitcase money, and you can just choose to walk off with that suitcase with all the money inside, and you immediately go full dark if you do. And I didn't actually know about it at the time. It's something I figured out or found out after the fact, but it's just one of those things. As that game series has a lot of those tiny, neat details like that.
That's funny. And interesting too. Okay, so if you go a good or dark, does that affect the story?
Not really. It affects how people view you and interact with you and that sort of thing. Like if you're a menace that just keeps blowing up vending machines and stealing money and stuff, people be like, we don't like you, Mega Man. Go away.
Sounds like something you would love to do.
Yeah, it's funny, but it's kind of hard to get on that dark path unless if you know the actions to take to do it. So I never actually did it because you have to do specific things like steal that money in the mission. So it's
So
definitely it's definitely one of
how do
those.
the stories connect from one to two then? Like what's two about versus one?
So two is a direct sequel from one. It is a bit more of the Mega Man and his team of, as I said before, they're kind of like treasure hunters called diggers. They're still hunting for treasure, but after the events of the first game, maybe a little bit more aware that there's this ancient society going on. And the second game is quite a bit more explains more this ancient society and what's Mega Man's connection to it and what's his connection to the leaders of the society, what his role was. Because in the end of Mega Man Legends 1, they kind of the final boss kind of hints that Mega Man is maybe not doing his job that this ancient society put on him. And so, once again, don't want to say too much in spoilers wise, but basically, Mega Man Legend 2 explores, Mega Man's past, his why he's different from the rest of these other Mega Men from the ancient society, and what his connection was to it.
Well, it sounds cool, but if this was so beloved of a franchise, why did it get canceled? Why did the third one get canceled? What's the story behind this? There's obviously something interesting to learn about here. What is it?
So that's a whole debacle. Mega Man Legends 3 was a game that Capcom said they were going to make for the 3DS. So not Well, compared to the PlayStation 1 that long ago. So what was happening is Legends fans were super excited, super hyped. We are finally getting the Legends 3. Everyone was waiting for it. Capcom opened up all these like sites and stuff for fans to sort of help with the series. And they did fan art, they helped decide on characters. Everyone got like a special number that said what number they were in the program. All these fans were all in. They were making all these videos and they were helping out with designing characters, voting on things. And then Capcom said, okay, on the 3DS we're going to release this demo that you can buy for like $5 and you could play it. And they released it to like some of the video game reviewers, but they never released it to the fans. Their reason why they never released it or continue working on Capcom, they said the fans weren't into the game. And that naturally made everyone mad. They said, oh, the fans don't care about Mega Man Legends 3 coming out. And fans are like, we're literally making this game with you. We're coming up with the character designs. We're helping you with this stuff. What do you mean we're not doing enough? But Capcom never really, they didn't even release the $5 demo that they said they were going to release. Video game reviewers had it, and the ones that did sort of, reported on how it played and stuff. But us fans, we didn't even get to hold the copy in our hands or anything like that. And Mega Man Legends 3 is still a sore point for a lot of Mega Man fans to this day, especially with Capcom and their, quite frankly, insensitive response to why they didn't go forward with Legends 3.
So it's a legend of itself. That's quite interesting and sad. I mean, if it's so loved, I don't understand. I wonder if the sales not as good for them as they'd want. Because I mean, you would think that if it's big enough, like will be happening. Period.
Yeah, from what I understand, is Mega Man Legends back when it was coming out, when it first came out, its sales weren't exactly what Capcom wanted. It wasn't as popular as they wanted. I mean, when you look at the series, you'll see that the characters like Tron Bonne or Mega Man himself, they crossed over with some fighting games like Marvel vs. Capcom. So they were loved, but I don't know if they exactly sold as well or were as, I guess, profitable as Capcom wanted. And I think around Mega Man Legends 3, around that time, was when Capcom was getting a little I don't know, a little bit having troubles with the producer, the guy who created the Mega Man series, because right after that, he goes on to make the much infamous Mighty Number 9. So I think it was also, there was a bit of a drama at Capcom right there, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't want to go through with that Mega Man Legends 3.
Wow. That's sad, but I mean, one day they could come out with that game and people will be hyped. It's one of those games, It's kind of like Mother 3. Everyone hopes that's going to come one day to America, and eventually it will, So, I'm sorry to hear that it didn't all have the final conclusion that everyone had hoped for. But was there any other Mega Mans that spun out of this series, like a side quest or any side stories, adventures?
There was several like smaller side games that came out only in Japan that aren't really of note, but there was one game that was released globally called The Misadventures of Tron Bonne, and she's sort of I don't know if I'd call her a anti-hero or frenemy sort of situation. She's like a pirate in the first game, so she kind of gets in Mega Man's way, but she's not necessarily malicious about it. She's kind of a comedic character, almost kind of like your Team Rocket type of situation, only she's more serious and more comedic, I guess I'd say. Kind of a contradiction, but she's a bit more of a heroic character. She has her own game. The gameplay is not like Mega Man Legends. You're controlling her little robot servants called Servbots. So it's not like part of the main two Mega Man Legends games. It's a spinoff, but it's part of the series.
Gotcha. Well, looking at it from somebody's perspective from the outside, I mean, the game looked like it's probably more expensive to make, than a traditional Mega Man. I mean, it was a
Mhm.
3D environment, just a deeper experience. And at the time, that's what everyone wanted. Everyone wanted 3D, 3D, 3D. So that they had to figure out how do we make Mega Man 3D like that. I mean, and then eventually, the series that we talked about last week, Battle Network. I mean, it came out almost directly right after this series probably came to an end. So it wasn't like Mega Man stopped, but they switched and they had something that was probably cheaper to make, and it was getting better reception and results on it. I mean, that's just how I can kind of see why maybe Capcom did that.
Yeah, I think also the sort of RPG games are a bit more popular than, say, 3D third person shooter type games, especially more on the PlayStation era. I mean, when Mega Man Battle Network came out, I think it was just a little bit more popular. It was on a Nintendo console. The portable consoles like the PS were doing good. Uh, I think another one of those things is I'm not sure really people knew what to do with Mega Man Legends. It was 3D instead of 2D, and they were so used to the 2D at that point. And like I said, Mega Man X was also on the PlayStation 1. So, if they're looking at two games and saying, do I want Mega Man X and the gameplay mechanics that I've known since, the NES era, or do I want to try something new with Mega Man Legends? People are naturally going to gravitate to what they're comfortable with. They're going to go with the 2D games that they're familiar with and the gameplay mechanics that they understand.
Makes sense to me. But well, I mean, I think that kind of, unless you got anything else you want to add, I mean, I really feel like that kind of puts a cap on this series. Anything else?
Not really. I mean, it's a much beloved series. There's a bit to talk. There's a lot to talk about for it only being like two games and a spinoff. A lot to talk about, but uh, at the same time, I think we've covered most everything about it.
All righty. Well, again, we know as long as Traven doesn't really do social media, so we can't find him much anywhere. But with that said, I think that brings this episode to a close. So thank you again, Traven, for joining us this week on Nintendo Nostalgia. Appreciate your insight, and we'll definitely have you back again soon as well.
Thank you for having me. Had a good time.